this week's Facebook Live, and today I'm going to talk about mind clutter basically. So I'm posing the question, what is on your mind? So whatever that is, can absolutely leave you feeling very overwhelmed. It can clutter up the mind, as I said, drag us down, zap our energy, slow us down, and getting things out of our heads, preferably down on paper if you can, but even use an app or a dictaphone, an old-fashioned dictaphone. This can help raise our awareness of what is actually holding us trapped, because they do hold us trapped, all these thoughts that are going around in our head. And I'm going to talk about two things in particular that can really hold us there and keep us trapped and using up an awful lot of energy on other things that could be best served serving ourselves. So if we raise our awareness, and that's the whole idea about posing these questions today, then we can begin to see the real problem, not be running around on minor stuff, but actually take that step back and actually see, instead of reacting, we can actually begin to notice what's really going on, what's on our mind a lot, get to the root cause, and then we can, look at it. So first question, like, what is cluttering up your mind? And generally, this section is about thinking. It's about our thought patterns. So is it all those incomplete tasks, your should-haves, your unresolved problems, overdue bills? We all have issues at the moment with the cost of living, guilt, cleaning, the children, your relationship, your work, lack of exercise, overeating, procrastination, perfectionism, your emotions, any work-related issue. Maybe it's a toxic environment, but it's an awful lot of clutter that can keep going in our mind every minute of the day. And all of this thinking that's going on, or these thoughts about all these random things are going to be reinforcing any sort of negative, irrational thoughts and beliefs that we actually already have. The thinking can be very subtle at times. And at other times, then it's like, that full-blown washing machine, the spin effect that's going on. It's a full-blown mind melt. But the subtle ones can be very entrenched. And, we may not even notice them. And we certainly, if we're not noticing them, we're not going to realize that these thoughts, all these random thoughts about all these different things I've just listed, can control how we're living our day to day. And it can be very damaging if left unchecked. We can become very depressed, we can become very stressed, anxious, worried, fearful, etc. And then we tend to move towards only seeing the negative and only negative thinking. But once we recognize them, as I said, then we can change them. So get out the journal. There's plenty of journals you can do. Write your own journal. I keep a written journal because I'm a paper and pen gal. I do like my paper and pen. But you can use an app. I said this before, you can use an app. There are apps out there for journaling. You can use an old-fashioned dictaphone. You can use anything that you want. As long as you're allowing the stuff to come up and you're not limiting it or not worried about spelling or grammar or anything like that. Just the whole idea is to let it all flow. But if you can do that every night, just at the start, that's all you have to do. You're just getting it up and out. Begin to note down, what's on your mind. This is going to help build the awareness, and then you can start to see, is there a pattern to my thinking? How is it impacting my behavior? And then you can start to tackle those in a more proactive way. Next question I'd say to you is, who is on your mind? So separate them out. What is on your mind? I know who is on your mind will lead into, what's on your mind, but who is it? Who is this person that's on your mind? Particularly if you're dealing with a lot of negative people. It could be family members, it could be, I'm talking about adults here, okay? It could be friends, it could be work colleagues, the neighbours maybe are giving you a bit of hassle. But who are they? I mean, we all know people that can be badgering, overbearing, downright bullying at times, maybe a little bit nagging, trying to control us, nitpicking, gossiping, frustrating. They can be angry people, and we're having to deal with them, and that can be, really damaging to our mental health. We can spend an enormous amount of time hanging around with these people, and I'm not just talking in person, because when they leave, they're actually in our heads, and we're letting them rent out space up here. So they're taking our time up, enormous amounts of time and energy from us. We can end up arguing with them once they leave in our heads. And then we're feeling guilty, because the guilt and shame, maybe this toxic guilt and shame there, is kicking in, and it affects how we think as well, and then how we behave. But again, once you can see that this is just keeping that tape going and going and going, and that our mind is spending so much of our energy on these people instead of what is really important to us. When we can see that, then we can start to change it. Because if we don't change it, again, it's very toxic. It's very toxic to our lives. You can end up more stressed, anxious, depressed, etc. And again, we can end up doing things, particularly for negative people, that we'd usually say no to with other people. There's always somebody there, and we can very quickly burn out with these people, trying to please them and keep everybody happy and keep the peace. But we end up burning out. We end up sick. So my question is to you here about this one is, don't you owe it to yourself to stop giving them rental space in your head at the very least? So you might have to continue to deal with them, because you mightn't be able to get away from them. But you should try and minimize the contact with them. But even when they're gone, don't give them the rental space in your head. Again, you really need to use your journal here to notice, who is playing on your mind, and why. Why is it that particular person? Why are you giving them so much of your time and energy, even when they've left? Because it's not just physically, it's mentally that it's impacting you. So again, raise your awareness. And once you raise your awareness, you'll be able to make more proactive decisions that are better for you where you're going to spend your time and energy in the future. So have a think about those two questions. And the last question I'm going to pose to you, and people don't like this one actually, is, what is your payoff? What are you getting out of it, in other words? Because, when we're trying to understand what the clutter is in the mind, the who and the what, we do need to take that step back. This is why I say to you to use the journal. The journal will allow you to just get it all up and out, like emotional vomit. So we just get it up and out and down on the journal. But then we need to take that step back and reflect on it, particularly if we want to change it. So, when we're spending so much mental space on others, when we're spending so much mental space on negative thinking, it leaves very little room for ourselves, for our wants, our needs, our self-care, our goals, and the joy in our life, because we're giving it all to these negative things, negative people. So questions around this, what's your payoff? And as I said, this is something people don't like this question, okay? But if you want to be really honest with yourself and you want to really change this, then you do need to ask yourself, what am I getting out of it? What am I getting out of it? What's my payoff? So some questions here you might like to ask yourself. Again, they're in the blog. I'll leave it in the description. Are you using these people or thoughts, negative thoughts, to distract yourself from another problem that's in your life? Do you fear taking positive steps towards your own goals? Now you can substitute the word goals there for towards happiness, towards wants, desires, maybe looking after yourself. Could be just basic, down to the basic self-care. Are you avoiding doing that? Are you afraid to do that? By doing so much for other people, remember, we are limiting the time and energy we actually have for ourselves. Next question, are you using the thoughts and the emotions associated with those negative thoughts to deflect yourself away from someone you need to tackle? So somebody may be a little bit close to you, and you're avoiding having to tackle them or stand up to them, to be assertive towards them. Toxic guilt and shame will come in here, for example. Are you keeping busy mentally and physically? There is a saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person. If you're keeping busy mentally and physically, it is a form of disassociation. Disassociation from real issues, because perhaps that's out of fear. Another payoff could be, actually, do you need to feel needed? That is a very valid question to do that. So by doing things for other people, it does fulfill something within you that isn't being met elsewhere in your life. And these are just, some of the questions that you can ask yourself around the payoff that can happen. Basically, you are looking for any kind of payoff, patterns of behavior that will give you that payoff, that will give you, you're getting whatever you're getting out of it. Whatever you find out, you might not, you mightn't like it. Because we have to realise that, there's some things we don't want to face in life sometimes. And as I said, it can be a form of disassociation to give over that mental space, to give over our physical energy to other people, to all these thoughts, to do things, keep ourselves busy, as I said. So you have to see, like, is it a positive or a negative to keep keeping this busy mentally and physically. If it has become the case for you, I would recommend then that you do speak to a therapist, because if it is something you don't want to face up to, working with an independent person who's neutral ground, okay, will help you to overcome that fear. And you can voice your fears without judgment. They're not going to judge you. So do look for a local therapist near you. One more point I'd say to you is, my book, The Building Blocks of Self-Care, it's up on Amazon. It's also on my website. That has chapters on deleting negative thinking and deleting or minimizing contact with negative people. It has worksheets in it that'll take you through step by step through the process of how to do it. There's also a number of blogs and videos on my website. If you want to go check them out, do check them out. And stay safe out there. And hope you're all looking forward to the countdown towards Christmas. We're now on the 2nd of December. So hope it's been good for you this year, that countdown. And I will talk to you all again next week. As always, if you'd like to ask me a question, I'm more than happy to answer a question. Thank you to those who watch live and those who watch in replay here and on YouTube. And I'll say goodbye, and I'll talk to you all next week.